What up, y'all? It's your man Abuamerican. Going to read this article that I've been promising for a couple of days now, How Women Argue. Now, I was told that I read too fast, and so I'll try and read slower, but understand that in general, these are quite long articles, and so this could take in anywhere from like 20 minutes up in order to read at a slower pace. I could probably shave off 3 or 4 minutes by reading fast. How Women Argue by Illimitable Man. Quote, no sensible man ever engages unprepared in a fencing match of words with a woman. Wilkie Collins. The fundamental difference in what women say they want and what they actually want is a product of the notion that women tend to exercise rationalization, not reason in and of itself. Most women have extremely weak reasoning. You'll notice in arguments with them that they will try to attack the credibility of your logic to try to make themselves look better. This is the classic I can't beat the competition, so I'll try to make the competition less effective strategy that women employ on a grand scale with ideas like fat acceptance, but applied on a micro scale in their interactions on a one-to-one basis. Questioning a man's logic and credibility is a way a woman essentially brings a man down to her level of absurdity. There comes a line of questioning so invasive, so interrogative, and so unreasonable that a man, feeling like he is on the defense, will yield his logic to his sense of frustration, and then the woman who deliberately and calculatingly imposed this form of mental tyranny in her sense of outrage will then use this frustration as a weapon against the man to further reduce his credibility by pointing out quite proudly that he is in fact no more logical than she. Women will hold you to your logic, as it forces you to take responsibility for things they do not wish to. But they are bound by no such logic themselves because they have no prevailing internal dialogue that is actually based on logic. At best, they tend to have segmented ideas based on emotional thought layered with rationalizations that work to present a veneer of intellectual credibility, which is later necessary for the purpose of saving face. What women are doing here is exploiting the nature of logic and the sense of duty to the truth which is inherent within it. They make you feel bad by making you feel like you violate your own sense of duty to the truth while simultaneously feeling no such duty themselves. This gives them an edge in verbal combat, as once you are emotionally compromised within your own frame of reference, questioning your own sense of logic due to your emotionally provoked slip-up, they can then exploit this momentary weakness to dominate the agenda. They do whatever they do, then worry about making themselves look good later on. Unemotional reason does not permeate the thought process beforehand. Satiating the need caused by the desire of the current emotional state is the utmost importance to them. Essentially, they care more about feeding their emotional state more than they care about the tenets of objective logic. An Abuamerican note here, like I said, and I always say, women are more concerned with how they feel instead of the truth. Emotional preference beats rational preference for them almost every time, as much as they hate the fact this makes them seem less credible than men, and thus to some extent inferior. This is practically a universal truth that not even government-imposed equality has managed to rectify. Women are not held any more accountable for their actions now than they were pre-feminism. You only need to look at sentences handed out by the judiciary to confirm this. When you're inherently unreasonable, you are prone to making mistakes. Making mistakes makes you look bad. Looking bad is bad for your status. This is why women are good at saving face and maintaining a reputation whilst simultaneously practicing poor reasoning ability. This is where manipulation comes into play. You'll find that women are very good at spinning things, for more so than your average man is. They'll talk to you, they'll hold you to your words and get you on your defense, constantly questioning you, but they'll ignore any criticisms directed at them as if to say with the unspoken words that your concern or notice of their irrationalism is unworthy of validation. Then they use your own words against you, using underhanded and subtle spin to make you look like an idiot. The more you put into an argument with a woman, the more likely you are to lose with her because she will act most deviously in sabotaging your reputation while she layers hers. And there's this Muslima against feminism. You should see she's a pro at this right here. She's a pro at trying, let me say it like that, for the uninitiated man. To a woman, an argument is not usually an exchange of information between one person and another, where despite opposition, ideas can be exchanged and information learnt. To a woman, an argument is a battleground for pushing an agenda. Reputation maintenance always comprises part of that agenda. There's nothing more and nothing less to the nature of their argumentation. This is why typically they cannot be held as accountable and thus even remotely equal to men due to an absence of credibility. They demonstrate repeatedly that their mental faculty is averse to claiming responsibility via honest, transparent discourse. Even when they are in positions of power, which require by nature of the job description that they be held completely and utterly accountable, they still demonstrate reluctance to give up plausible deniability and be forced into a position. Analyze any female bosses in the workplace. You've had to draw a personal inference if you need to. It doesn't really make sense to me right there. Wait, that's wording. Continuing. The desire for plausible deniability is what creates their blame-shifting nature and makes them happily to themselves not only unaccountable, but to their simultaneous dismay, not credible as a group of people. Women will always move the fixation of the analytical microscope from themselves to the opponent in their defiant acts of emotion-fueled verbal sparring. We've seen that in that same person. This is how they defend themselves. They are wholly incapable of standing up to scrutiny on a logical level due to their lack of faculty previously explained. And this is thus why they do everything in their power to remain out of the spotlight, shaming and scapegoating others in place of being a target of scrutiny themselves. As long as it's not my fault and I don't look bad, she doesn't care. Despite the common woman's indignation at being deemed illogical, or at least in terms of mental faculty far less capable of logical reasoning than man himself, women in all their self-honesty beyond their hubris and ego maintenance do in fact realize that men are the more logical party. How is this, you ask? Something I've observed in my arguments with women over time is a tendency for them to say that you claim women are illogical, but you've just been illogical yourself. Again, as mentioned earlier, this is a device used to try and bring you down whilst they bring themselves up. It is the credibility game of making you seem less credible by destroying the appearance of your advantage, your logic, to onlookers. However, the irony here is that such statements are often made after the woman in question has been incredibly irrational herself. However, if you as a man are to make one wrong step, to make one statement that isn't in total sound logic, you are immediately held at gunpoint to this one foul pass, however you say that, in comparison to her long list of logical mistakes, is held up as an example of just how illogical you are as a man. How is this woman admitting that they believe men to be more logical than themselves? I hear you ask. Well, as usual, they're communicating via subtext, not with words. They're holding men to a standard where even one sentence or idea uttered illogically is immediately picked up on and condemned. Thus, they have the ability to identify irrationalism. Yet, ironically, they perpetuate their own irrationalism as gospel. They are holding themselves to a lower standard of logical accountability than they do the male party. Gotcha there, ladies. A man is condemned for being illogical and immediately compared to a woman for being so. Yet the same woman who draws this comparison is the same woman who will try and condemn you to save face using all the most argumentatively illogical Machiavellian tactics in the book. Women know they are illogical. They know they are not fair to you in discourse. They push all your buttons and drive you crazy with their irrationalism, and quite simply, they don't care as long as it fulfills their agenda. They are undeniably selfish and hold commitment to their personal needs higher among their list of personal priorities than the diction of intellectualism. The only thing they care about is feeling like they're right and getting their ego stoked, not actually discovering that little known thing we value called the truth. Solipsism does not need truth. Equally accountable standards of logic applied to both genders, however, does need truth, as the truth is objective. The truth has the potency to be harmful to solipsism and the female sense of well-being, and therefore, typically, the truth is an adversary of the female. Only an ally when she needs to make someone else appear weak. What they're doing, despite their lack of intellectual integrity, is making themselves look more credible than the straight-talking, logical party, which is typically the man, so that when it comes to saving face, they win the game of appearing more sophisticated. A sophistication carries a grace of validity and credibility to it. This is what they are mostly concerned with in the perpetuation of their thoughts. Women care about winning arguments, not about being right per se. To a woman, being right is using whatever underhanded tactic is required to get her own way and come out of the conflict favorably. Being right is not obeying the laws of logical objectivism, but spinning other people's logic to make her look better than them whilst offering up some weak arguments herself just to get the ball rolling. There are a few ways that you can put a spin on an argument at hand. One of them is to shame you. By shaming you, they can make you react emotionally. Once you react emotionally, you have lost. They will then make a theatrical example out of you to show of your show of emotion and use it to condemn you. Another way they put a spin on things, reading slow is like really difficult for me here. Another way they put spin on things, one they favor greatly, is to play the victim. All of a sudden, all the verbosity of being equal turns into I'm just a girl and you're being mean. Water tears get worked, and everyone looks at you like you're the anal sphincter. The messed up thing is you will probably even feel like an anal sphincter also. I'm trying not to use curse words. Even though you're in the right. Voila. She gets her own way, and that's all she wanted to begin with. There is no low too low for womankind to steep to if it means she gets her own way with and secures her interests. Jeez. Okay, bro. This is the last paragraph. I can't do it slow anymore. Jazakallah khair, man, but I can't read slow anymore. It's killing me. Women are very egotistical because ego, like everything, is composed of emotions, and emotions are that much more de facto dominant in women than they are in men. Next time you argue with a woman, remember the agenda at hand is to appear more credible and maintain a superior reputation just opposed to your own. If she tries to bait you into reacting emotionally, and she will, she is dependent on your anger to have a chance at beating you to a pulp with your own words. Do not take her seriously and just laugh off her words, because really they are nothing more than baseless Machiavellian nonsense that will drive you to insanity should you take such words seriously and attempt to engage them at face value. Then he plays a Bill Burr video. You know, the thing is, I read fast and I'm talking slow, and so I'm like 2 sentences down while I'm still speaking like 2 sentences up, and it's just too much. It's difficult for me to read slow, so whew, man. Anyway, this is the last time I'm going to address this, because she's not worth it. But when you really look, this is what that anti-feminist Muslimah did, exact word for word. And this is the beauty of understanding the nature of women and how they operate, is that you can see it coming at all times. Every time they take an action, every time they do something like this, you can see it. You can spot it a mile away. And so, it's telling that, there were entire conversations that took place back and forth that she deleted. I never delete my comments because I'm always accountable for what I say. This is why I never apologize. Because I'm always accountable. Someone's always going to hold it against you, no matter what happens, no matter how much you apologize, no matter how much you take action to change things. Accountability is something that men know, not women. And therefore, to save face, she took time to delete all the comments of the back and forth between her and myself and some other brothers, just so she could maintain face. And then she goes on later on to call these same brothers, like myself and other brothers, un-Islamic, opposing Islam, providing no proof for any of her claims whatsoever. No dalil whatsoever. No screenshot saying this is opposed to this because of this hadith, this Quranic verse, nothing. Saying that people are outright opposing Islam. She makes a lot of claims, So understand how women argue when you deal with them. There's no logic, there's no reason. Generally don't argue with them unless, like me, you enjoy watching the hamster wheel spin and watch the way things go. It's very interesting for me, and I find it very amusing. It's entertainment, it's sport, but at the end of the day, it's a kind of a waste of time, because it's a waste of time. Let me close this out, and then I'm going to make a new video about a different topic, but similar. This is your man, Abuamerican. Catch me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all at Abuamerican. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. I'm out.